Alright, welcome to task 3. What we're going to talk about here now is we just got done exploring parallel lines and you work with some equations with parallel lines. Now we're going to talk about perpendicular lines and perpendicular slopes and kind of what makes what's special about perpendicular lines. Recall that perpendicular lines are lines that meet at 90 degrees or right angles. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to take a look at this through our graphing calculator. Alright, so if you did not grab a graphing calculator already, I would go ahead and grab one and just have your enrichment sheet there as well. You don't have the sheet that I'm looking at, but you're going to have some notes that you're going to jot down. So go ahead and hit the on button down here in the lower left hand side of your calculator, and you should notice a flashing box up here in the upper left hand corner. That means it's on. You can do all your normal calculator things with this calculator, but you can also graph with it, and that's what we're going to go over here. So if you go to the upper left hand corner where it says y equals and hit that, this screen should appear. Now sometimes it will have things already in play here, sometimes we'll have to clear them out. You can see I have an x squared and I have a 2 down there. We're going to take those out here in a second, but notice you have a y1 equals, y2 equals, y3 equals, and so forth. Those are just extra spots. You could put, it looks like, 7 different equations in here at one time. We're not going to worry about that right now. Let's go ahead and clear that out. So we don't want anything there, so over on the right hand side here, you can hit the clear button, and you will notice it cleared that one out. You can use your arrows to arrow down to whichever one you want. So we're going to go down to y3 and we're going to clear that one out. Then I'm going to go back up to y1 so that my screen just looks blank like so. And now what I wanted you to do is we're going to type in this first equation here in part A. So y equals 2/3 x plus 4. I do not have to type in the y equals. That's already set for you. So I'm going to start out, because it's a fraction, I'm going to put that in parentheses. So you're going to use your parentheses right here and go 2. And our fraction, we can just use our division symbol. Divided by 3, close your parentheses, and then this button right here next to the right of the alpha button, if you push it, will give you the x plus 4. And that's our first equation. Alright, now let's go ahead and arrow down to y2, and we're going to go ahead and plug in our second equation, just like we did before. So negative 3 divided by 2, x plus 2. And now I have my equations in. Now I want to go ahead and see what the graph looks like. So if you go to the upper right hand corner where it says graph and just push that, you can see the calculator is thinking up there. If the lines don't appear, some of you the lines might appear and you're going to be looking at it. If they did not appear, go ahead to this middle and hit zoom, and you're just going to hit number 6. If you look at your options here, you could zoom in, zoom out. Zoom 6 is zoom standard. It's the normal grid. So hit that. It'll give you a normal grid, and then you should see your lines appear right on the screen. And now, you might say that maybe they look off a little bit. They look maybe pretty close. It might just be through my doc cam and what you're seeing, but those lines are in fact perpendicular to one another. So what we want you to do on your enrichment sheet is now looking back at your equations on the computer screen here and knowing that what we call perpendicular slopes, we call them opposite reciprocals. Alright? And what we want you to do is go ahead and define what do you think it means by the opposite, and what does the reciprocal part mean. So if you want to pause the video for a second, write down what you think, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Go ahead. Alright, welcome back. So you should have wrote down what you think here. These are quite simple. For perpendicular slopes, the opposite just refers to the sign is opposite the other equation. So notice up here, this was a positive 2/3. Well, the opposite part makes it a negative 2/3. The reciprocal part you might not have never heard about, but reciprocals are when you take a fraction and you flip the numerator and denominator. And all we can say here is the fraction is flipped. So for instance, if I gave you a slope of 2, I would say write it as 2/1. What your perpendicular slope would be, well, we take the reciprocal, so we flip it and make it 1/2, and we also have to make it opposite, so we make it a -1/2. Another example would be if I gave you a slope of -3/4, your perpendicular slope would then be a positive 4/3. All right, so parallel lines have the exact same slope. They're just shifted up and down. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. All right, go ahead and move on to task 4 where you can get some practice with some perpendicular lines.